Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over one of the most highly anticipated updates in Fortnite history, Update 7.40. Although recent Fortnite updates had been making some pretty major changes to the game, a lot of people felt that those updates were still ignoring a lot of Fortnite's most important problems. Plus, due to the fact that Season 8 is right around the corner at this point, there's a good chance that 7.40 is the last meaningful update until then. Well, as it turns out, all the hype was worth it, because 7.40 is absolutely game-changing in so many ways. It is without a doubt one of the most impactful updates in the history of Fortnite. So without further ado, let's get right into discussing what's changed and how it impacts the game as a whole. Alright, so let's start this off by talking about what is without a doubt the biggest change contained in the new update, and honestly is one of the biggest changes to Fortnite ever. The settings used in the majority of pop-up cups have been added to all default game modes in Fortnite Battle Royale. In case you forgot what those were, there are 4 main changes here. You receive 50 health or shield whenever you get an elimination, 50 wood, 50 brick, and 50 metal are now automatically dropped on each elimination. There's now a 500, 500, 500 cap on materials compared to the old 999, 999, 999, and finally the harvesting rate has been increased by 40%. Epic explained their reasoning for making this change by saying the following: "We're introducing these changes into the default Fortnite playlist as a test. We've seen these settings in pop-up cups result in more engaging fights and allowing players to gain more consistent rewards for the risk of engagement." They also state at the end that they'll be closely monitoring feedback on these changes. It's funny because I actually made an entire video at the very beginning of Season 7 talking about how much I wanted to see these exact settings be added into normal Fortnite public matches. But I honestly didn't think that Epic would ever actually do it. What we've kind of seen over these past few seasons is that Epic has been adding a ton of changes that lower the skill gap of the game. But this is practically the opposite. This is the definition of a change that's going to reward really good players, somewhat punish the less skilled players, and in general raise the overall skill gap of the game. I think that the instantly granted health will make third partying a decent amount less dominant, and will also make dealing with multiple players at the same time a bit easier, because now you can just instantly finish someone when fighting a full team, and you'll get granted that 50 health immediately. The lowered max material count will reward players who are able to get kills without relying too much on overbuilding, and the 40% faster harvesting rate combined with the 150 mats dropped on elimination will make it so that you don't have to spend a large chunk of the game just whacking inanimate objects. And that's something that everybody should be able to agree is a good thing. So maybe it was Apex Legends, maybe it was general complaints from the community, or maybe this is something that Epic had planned for a while now. I don't know, I honestly don't really care, I'm just super excited to see how much more enjoyable this makes public matches as a whole. Moving on, speaking of changes that increase the skill gap of the game, Update 7.40 had a strong theme of giving multiple buffs to building. I just said maybe a minute or two ago that recently there have been a lot of changes that have made it harder for good players to succeed. The majority of those changes have involved making building either easier to counter or just weaker in general. If you want examples, look no further than some of the items that have been added over the past 2 to 3 months, like the boombox, dynamite, planes, infinity sword, the list goes on and on. In this update, however, there are 3 significant changes that should go a long way in making building a much stronger option in fights. First, the X4 Stormwing plane is no longer able to break through structures and other large objects. This is something that people have been wanting since about the very first week of Season 7, but I guess it's better late than never. Make no mistake, planes will still be an incredibly powerful item, especially for third-partying fights. But at least now you can actually focus on the player in the plane without worrying about him just flying through and destroying everything you build instantly. The next important change is that the initial timer for turbo building has been reduced from 0.15 seconds to 0.05 seconds. The way turbo building had always worked was that the first building piece you turbo built took 0.15 seconds to place. Then, as long as you kept turbo building, every piece after that would take 0.05 seconds. I don't remember the exact reasoning behind it, but I think it had something to do with giving an advantage to turtling players who were just constantly holding down the button. But recently, players started to point out that the extra delay for the first piece was actually a pretty flawed and broken mechanic. It felt really clunky in a lot of situations and even caused players some totally undeserved deaths at times. I'll show you guys a clip right now from a Reddit user named Jerry is Real. It does a good job of showing the impact that this change will have on turbo building and building in general. Keep in mind this was made a few days before the patch, but this should be exactly how it is now that the initial delay has been removed. So clearly a major difference there, and it should make turbo building, which everybody uses, feel a lot smoother now. The final buff to building contained in 7.40 are changes to two weapons, the deagle and the RPG. The structure damage of the purple deagle was lowered from 150 to 100, and for the gold deagle was lowered from 157 to 102. I briefly talked about this change in my last video, but in case you missed it, I think this is a pretty fair change. The deagle was not only one of the best weapons in the game for dealing player damage, but also one of the best at dealing structure damage. So when you think about it like that, it does seem like a nerf to one of those two damages is definitely fair. I'm pretty happy that they chose structure damage though, because I think even with these changes, the deagle is still a very strong weapon. However, the structure damage nerf is definitely a big deal, don't get me wrong here. And here's a really helpful chart that shows what structures the deagle can and can't one-shot now. Wood walls are safe after about 0.6 seconds, brick walls are safe after about 0.1, and metal walls are safe from the instant they're placed, so that's some pretty important information there. Along with the deagle, the RPG also received a huge nerf in this update. First off, RPGs have been totally removed from chests, which is obviously a huge deal. The chance of receiving an RPG from a supply drop has been raised from 25% to 50%, the reload speed of the purple RPG has been increased from 2.66 seconds to 3.42 seconds, and the reload speed of the gold RPG has been increased from 2.52 seconds to 3.24 seconds. So I think it's safe to assume that you won't be seeing very many RPGs in Fortnite from now on. They're pretty much only available in supply drops, and that's another pretty major buff to building. So that covers all the changes which either directly or indirectly made building much stronger. Now we move on to the rest of the notable changes from update 7.40. Ziplines finally got some buffs that a lot of people have been asking for since the very beginning. They now have a press to use button, and ziplines now also grant total immunity from fall damage. I actually really like the idea of ziplines, but up until now they were so frustrating to use at times. Mostly when you were fighting someone near a zipline and you would accidentally be forced onto it. Luckily that shouldn't happen anymore because you need to actually press a button to ride it, and I also like the removal of fall damage change. It should make you much less of a sitting duck whenever you're using a zipline. Next up, believe it or not, due to the changes in 7.40, the bush may be a legitimately powerful item now. It now absorbs 1 instance of weapon damage before being removed from the owner. Fall damage will not remove the bush, and maybe most important of all, the bush is now translucent for the person actually wearing it, so you can see your surroundings now. Apparently, people have done some testing, and when you're using the bush now, you can basically absorb an entire pump shotgun shot without taking any damage. I'm definitely curious to see how that plays out going forward, and who knows, maybe the bush will actually be a meta item now. Moving on to some vaulted slash unvaulted slash new items and weapons, grenades have been vaulted, clinger grenades and Cupid's crossbow have been unvaulted, and the new weapon added in 7.40 is the infantry rifle. It's a single shot assault rifle that comes in white, green, and blue rarity, and it does 41/43/45 base damage depending on the rarity. It's pretty much exactly like the M1 rifle from some of the older Call of Duty games. And finally, 2 small quality of life changes contained in 7.40. You'll now be able to edit while crouching, which is something that was so annoying to not be able to do, and floor traps will now automatically build a floor piece for you when needed. This means that you no longer need to build a floor for something like a launch pad or campfire, which is a cool little improvement. Now, one thing I didn't mention from this update was the change Fortnite attempted to make to aim assist. They basically made it so that there would be a delay for getting aim assist each time you aim down sights with a weapon. Now, it was a pretty awful change, and luckily they quickly reverted it. However, I don't think they'll just leave it alone from there, and I may make a full video talking about this entire subject sometime in the future. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. I want to know your general thoughts on Fortnite Update 7.40. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What were your thoughts on the aim assist change? What was your favorite change? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.